and welcome back to Invincible Asia. I'm George Clark and this is another episode of Deep Impact, where today I'm going to take a look back at the issue from September 1994, an issue that seems dominated by Arnold Schwarzenegger and True Lies and not much else. But I'm sure there's a few things in there that are going to entertain us, so let's go Deep Impact. Don't forget folks, before we go any further, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, ring the bell and all that jibber jabber, and thank you very much for supporting Invincible Asia. So yes, Arnie's latest big hit graces the front cover, and down below that we see an advertisement for MAI Videotech, who are offering a huge 50 quid off when you buy videos from their catalogue. I think this means that there's a pull-out catalogue available in this issue, but that's clearly what I did with it way back then. Pulled it out since it's no longer in here. As usual, we see the names of those involved around the edges, such as Cinema Vengeance, Charles Bronson, Drunken Master 3, Jack Nicholson, Kickboxer, Roy Horan, Mel Gibson, and Keanu Reeves. Anyway, let's get stuck in and see if this issue is any more exciting than the front cover. On page 2, we have that gorgeous full-page ad for Wushu Basic Training, a book by Donnie Yen's mother, Bosun Mark, and a book I could never afford to buy. But hey, if you have it and you don't want it, well, you know where to find me. Opposite, it's the contents page, along with Baywatch, where Bay is back on his soapbox, this time giving off about video piracy. Let's talk about piracy. No, not Blackbeard, the Seahawk and swashbuckling on the seven seas, but the pirating of illegal copies of films. In fact, many senior video industry folk prefer to refer to this persistent problem as copyright theft, since the term piracy carries with it so much of the romantic buccaneering spirit of yesteryear. On the face of it, it's a straightforward situation. I own a piece of property, in this case a motion picture, and you start making money out of it without my permission, and, more importantly, without cutting me in on the deal. It's like someone using your new car as a taxi or renting out your house behind your back. The copyright holder of the specific film, usually the local distributor, has paid a lot of good money for the rights and is quite rightly distressed to see criminals capitalizing on his investment. Having said that, it's more of a legal and ethical question than a practical one. No one has ever proved, to my satisfaction anyway, that poorly copied videotapes of hit films have any effect on the theatrical or legit VHS release figures of the same movies. Much was made over the bootlegging of the Spielberg productions E.T. and Jurassic Park. Certainly, the availability of pirate prints did little to damage the worldwide box office grosses of either film. Sometimes the ethical lines can be blurred though, and especially in terms of the Southeast Asian market. Another Spielberg film, Schindler's List, was banned, at least temporarily, in Malaysia on the basis, get this, it might offend the Germans. If the ban had held, wouldn't a Malaysian pirate distributor have been doing Spielberg a favour by allowing the Malayans a chance to see his epic? Similarly, the Beijing government frowns on the politically sensitive work of internationally acclaimed directors Zhang Yimou and Chen Kage. In this case, the rampant piracy on the mainland allows the audience a chance to see works of great merit that offer a very different interpretation of history from that put forward by party doctrine. Reversing the trend, you have the problem that faces fans of Hong Kong's action cinema. Given that most of the classic kung fu and gunplay movies from this territory will never be shown in the UK in their original language, and certainly not unbutchered by the censors, what choice does the discerning Hong Kong film fan have other than to support the few legitimate distribs and the various bootleggers? Given this situation, wouldn't the creators of the film concerned prefer their work to be seen at any price, even if someone else profits from it? Of course, this wouldn't be the only situation in which a creator gets fleeced by a more canny entrepreneur. Anyone wanting to find out the true meaning of the word piracy should try taking net points in the profits of a film made for a major American studio. Of course, the ideal situation is one in which the film is released by a legitimate distributor in its original form, with the profits being shared by all parties concerned. In our far from perfect world, and as a sometime filmmaker myself, I'd say that, given the sheer energy and commitment it takes to make even a bad movie, most creators would prefer their work to be seen at whatever the cost. In terms of action films, pirate copies are aimed at you, the Impact readership. I'd be interested to hear your views on the issue, especially in view of the UK's increasingly draconian film censorship system. Well, it's a wee bit ironic also because he does advertise these bootleggers for Hong Kong movies in his magazine. I mean, yeah, it's a wee bit ironic. But yes, the man does make a point. And I know because my own second directed feature got illegally downloaded a couple of million times in its first week of its DVD release. And while it was nice to know that so many people had watched it, we absolutely lost out of sales in a major way. Anyway, moving on. Overleaf, we get the big scoop on True Lies and an interview with the main man himself, Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's been some time since I last saw this film, so maybe it is time for a revisit. I mean, overall, it's a pretty straightforward interview talking about the disappointment in Last Action Hero and if Arnie was happy with True Lies, if he likes James Bond and shite like that. But you would think with a star such as him, quite possibly the biggest Hollywood action hero at that time, Impact would have afforded 4 or 6 pages of an interview overall. Over the page though, coverage on the film does continue as Mike Davies reviews True Lies for the Impact readers, and as before, like many others, he talks about the comparisons to James Bond, but ultimately loved it. It's just a shame that there wasn't a film series made out of it. I think that would have been a great run for both Arnie and James Cameron. On page 8 and 9, Hollywood dominates the lightning rod, which begins with an interesting piece on Demolition Man and how the Hong Kong version of the movie dubs over Taco Bell with Pizza Hut, as well as having replaced the Taco Bell logo with a computer-generated one for the Hut. Hardly action news. Up top, Keaton quits as Batman and Val Kilmer steps in. The article also mentions how Jim Carrey now replaces Robin Williams as the Riddler, and below that, controversy over the giveaway of Codename Alexa videos after co-star O.J. Simpson was arrested for murder. Shock. Over here, Die Hard gets a mention regarding Part 3 and the addition of Jeremy Irons and Samuel L. Jackson, while Harrison Ford's latest Tom Clancy outing gets a blurb next to that. Below again, a piece on James Bond's GoldenEye starring Pierce Brosnan, a film that we are probably going to see a lot more of in near future episodes of Deep Impact. Overleaf, the lightning rod continues with a blurb on the widely forgotten Bruce Willis flick North, seen here with a young Elijah Wood. Below that, Kung Fu the rehash continues, a show I've never really gotten into and I don't think I'll ever have the urge to do so, although this does mention an appearance from Sophia Crawford, so I may have to eat my words. And finally to the right, we get a little breakdown on the comparisons of Jackie Chan's My Lucky Stars with Beverly Hills Cop 3. Eddie's ready, but Jackie was wackier. Fuck me. Unfair funfair at Beverly Hills Cop 3. Our recent viewing of the distinctly disappointing Beverly Hills Cop 3 left us with a feeling of deja vu. Didn't we already see this movie some years ago under the title My Lucky Stars? Curiouser and curiouser, as Alice said. Jesus wept. The film, Beverly Hills Cop 3, My Lucky Stars. The star, comedian, actor Eddie Murphy. Comic actor Jackie Chan. Jesus, there was no difference in that whatsoever. The setting, a theme park, in both. The stunt, Eddie Stuntman climbs one of the rides. In My Lucky Stars, Jackie climbs one of the rides. How the hero enters the funfair, he dresses up as a cartoon character in both movies. How he beats the bad guys. In Beverly Hills, he uses the gadgets inside the park's attractions. In My Lucky Stars, he uses his kung fu and the gadgets inside the park's attractions. My goodness! Who is in Enter the Dragon? John Saxon and Lam Ching. What the fuck? Anyway, oh my god. Down below that, below the picture, it says, MB, having outlined the similarities, we should point out that the main difference between Beverly Hills Cop 3 and My Lucky Stars is that the latter cost many millions less, but was many times more fun. Well, I'm glad they cleared that up. Oh, Jesus. Anyway, opposite we have Word Up, Impact's trivia page that often offers nonsense blurbs that aren't overly exciting, but let's see what it gives us this month. Up top, we see the aforementioned Sophia Crawford. Speaking of comic book related projects, seems a new Punisher film, announced a while back, is still a possibility. Apparently, Marvel are considering using a female Punisher character in the movie after introducing such a person in their Punisher War Journal book. A would-be producer of our acquaintance, I wonder who that is, has been touting Brit kicker Sophia Crawford for the role, but whether his support is benefit or hindrance, remains to be seen. Yep, that was no doubt Bale Logan, but it is a damn shame that never happened. She definitely deserved something much bigger. The last time Van Damme and Kylie Minogue were seen together was on the Jonathan Ross show. The next will be in Street Fighter 2, which was filmed on location in Oz. Minogue is just the latest in a series of former substars to become A. Singers and B. Action movie performers. Well, that didn't last. Below that, Bruce Lee Lives. Check out the superb new officially licensed comic book from Malibu detailing the imaginary adventures of the late Little Dragon. Mike Barron, author of our favourite kung fu comic, The Badger. I love The Badger, oh my god, I have so many of those issues. Joins forces with artist Val Mierik for some of the finest fight scenes ever featured on the printed page. Gone but not forgotten, at least by us, the late great Steve American Ninja James still has a couple of projects unseen in the UK. These include the pilot for a TV series entitled Mantis, in which he played a rare bad guy role, and Blood Fist 5 opposite Don Wilson. Speaking of Don Wilson, down below, B-movie martial arts star Don Wilson now gets a credit on his films reading executive in charge of fight choreography. Oh Jesus, we don't doubt that he arranged the scenes concerned. We're just surprised he admits it so openly. That's brilliant. Oh my god. Up top, behind the times, the Roddy Piper Billy Blanks vehicle, back in action, has already hit video screens in Britain, but is only just being prepared for VHS release in the US. Seems the UK is viewed as a more viable action video market. And right down the bottom, the tragedy of Brandon Lee's passing was highlighted by the success of The Crow. His last film beat out higher profile action flicks like Beverly Hills Cop 3 and Three Ninjas Kick Back at the US box office. Too bad Brandon is no longer here to enjoy his victory. Fun times, not a bad selection of bits there to go through, but let's move on. Next up is a full page ad for Clash of the Titans, a collection of martial arts battles for those of you interested in real people knocking the shit out of each other. Opposite to that, the third voucher towards your £50 off, although I don't ever remember seeing the first two in previous issues, but hey, hopefully someone made use of them. Next up, another page of ads. Ugh, such a bloody waste of space, and the same three we've seen over the past few issues with the MAI hotline for the Van Damme tapes, letting us know that part 3 starts on August 18th, and those god-awful ads for attracting girls and building muscles. Next to that, we have the start of a 3-page article on Mel Gibson's Maverick. And what a nice layout this feature actually has. I really enjoyed this movie when I first saw it. Of course, it has been some time since, but I do remember it being a highly enjoyable movie co-starring Jodie Foster and James Garner. Of course, Garner was the leading man of the original television show from the late 1950s, alongside the likes of Jack Kelly and Roger Moore. I will get back to watching this film though sometime soon. I wouldn't mind seeing it again in high def. Moving on though. Following that, another impact chart, this time casting their dream superhero actors. I actually remember these pages quite well. I think this image is what actually introduced me to the Savage Dragon comic books. He looks so friggin' cool, and I wish they would make a live action movie or Netflix series on him. Personally, I would cast Jason Statham as the Savage Dragon. I think he would be incredible. Anyway, let's get stuck in. Okay, the Batman movies and the first Superman flick were pretty cool, but generally the film and TV versions of your favourite 4-colour stars have been pretty lame. Look what they did to the Punisher. Check out the way they fucked up the mighty Thor in that Hulk TV movie. The Fantastic Four was deemed unreleasable. How bad could it be? By popular request, alright okay, here's our guide to the graphic art adaptations we'd like to see. Please note that they bear no relation to the versions of some of these characters that may be in development at various studios. Interesting. Okay, Daredevil, obviously owned by Marvel there, and we know all about him. Perfect casting, Mark Dacascos. He could handle the acting, martial arts, and acrobatics all by himself. Chances are fair, could be a hit like Batman. I agree, Mark Dacascos could have been quite an awesome Daredevil, but he still has too much of an exotic look about him. Iron Man, perfect casting, Tom Selleck. Which I can see if it was a 90s thing, of course. Alter ego Tony Stark is something of a smooth devil and has the same initials. Oh my god. Chances are fair. Armor would be expensive to do right. Hence why we had to wait until 2008. Barbed Wire, I want to just lean on this one because their perfect casting is Sharon Stone or Linda Hamilton, but of course they settled on Pamela Anderson. The chances of making a Barbed Wire movie, poor. No one's heard of her. Well, in fact, they made that much quicker than some of the others on this page. Savage Dragon, perfect casting, Stallone. So he's bald, so he's green, so what? I mean, that's terrible casting. They're just looking for a guy with muscles. Jason Statham, for me, would be the ultimate Savage Dragon, without a doubt. Chances? None. If they're going to make a big green muscle man movie, they'll make the Hulk. Absolutely, and they did, but I still feel a Savage Dragon movie would be quite successful. Lobo from DC, a bodybuilder like Mike Quinn. No idea who that is, and they're saying chances are none, but we are seeing that coming closer and closer. Power Man and Iron Fist, Mr. T and Gary Daniels. Now this really dates this this issue and this chart. Mr. T and Gary Daniels as Power Man and Iron Fist. That is hilarious. Chances are slim. Neither character is unique enough. But of course, we have seen them come to light. Doctor Strange, perfect casting, Patrick Bergin. I can picture him, but I can't really remember what he was in. Chances are good if someone put up a big SFX budget. Now, we did see an earlier Doctor Strange. It kind of vanished, that movie. And of course, the new MCU has really solidified the perfect Doctor Strange in my eyes. Manhunter is an interesting one. I mean, he's very dated in his costume, and the perfect casting that they have listed for him is Jeff Speakman, and that would have been perfect in 1994. Absolutely, it would have been great to see Jeff Speakman play Manhunter, but the chances are none, as it says here. No one knows the character, and the title's already been used. I mean, DC's Manhunter would have worked, but also, yes, no one knows that character. What a shame. And then, of course, you have Venom, as we all know, has had 3 successful, surprisingly successful movies, but their perfect casting for him is Dolph Lundgren. The guy's big but agile. I don't know how that would have worked, but it would have been friggin' cool to see. Chances? None. Too close to Spider-Man. Well, they were obviously wrong with that one. Anyway, amazing how times have changed, and those that did get made were not even close to what Impact wanted here. Alright, moving on. Next up, we have a 2-page spread inspired by the MIA video release of the awesome Cinema of Vengeance. My god, has it really been that long? Holy shit. Anyway, let's get stuck in. With the release of Cinema of Vengeance, a superb documentary on the history of the Chinese martial arts film, Impact takes the opportunity to present its own beginner's guide to the wonderful world of Far East fight flicks. Don't just take our word about the subject though, buy the tape. It's brilliant. Cinema of Vengeance, directed by Toby Russell, son of perennial cinematic rascal Ken Russell, tells the story of the Chinese language action film right from the very earliest days. At the dawn of the Chinese martial arts film, we learn that there were no fight choreographers as such, the performers basically making it up on the spot. Eventually, choreographers from the Peking Opera were brought in, resulting in a flowery theatrical effect with very obviously no physical contact going on during the fights. Not until the immense success of the films featuring the character Wong Fei-hung were real martial artists employed for the fight scenes. Played by Chinese opera performer Quan Tok-hing, interviewed for Cinema of Vengeance, the series began in the 1940s and dominated almost totally the martial arts movie scene, with up to 30 being released in some years. With such a huge output, the producers were forced to show some imagination, and often the traditional use of weapons was replaced by hand-to-hand combat of the type which would come to epitomize the Chinese fight film. As the Wong Fei-hung series wound down, sword-fighting films reigned supreme, and the Shaw Brothers studio dominated the film market. Shaw Brothers was set up on the lines of the Hollywood studio system. Even their logo was based on the Warner Brothers symbol. Their biggest star was Wang Yu, also interviewed in Cinema of Vengeance, a former swimming champion from Shanghai who shot to stardom in One-Armed Swordsman. In the wake of the success of Bruce Lee, Shaw Brothers attempted to turn Wang Yu, under the name Jimmy Wang Yu, into an international star with such films as The Man from Hong Kong. Well, that was nonsense because The Man from Hong Kong was made with Golden Harvest. The attempt failed since Wang Yu had neither the looks nor the fighting ability of Lee, but he still occasionally shows up, most recently in The Prisoner with Jackie Chan. Still, Wang Yu was by far the biggest Oriental fighting star of his day and was responsible with the 1970s The Chinese Boxer, which he wrote, directed and starred in, for ushering in the era of the unarmed fighter. Unfortunately for Wang Yu, the new film style he had popularized was also taken up by a certain Mr. Bruce Lee, and Wang Yu was yesterday's papers. Lee's films broke box office records in the Asian market from the word go, but world markets ignored them until a sale of The Big Boss was arranged to Beirut. The film took off like a rocket, and suddenly kung fu films were the latest international fad. Of course, just when he was on the verge of becoming the world's biggest movie star, Bruce Lee died, leaving the Hong Kong film industry without its figurehead. Certain Asian producers tried fobbing off audiences with Bruce Lee impersonators such as Bruce Lee, Bruce Lai, Dragon Lee, and even Bronson Lee. Even Golden Harvest, who released the films of the real Bruce Lee, hired two Bruce-alikes for their completion of Game of Death, the last unreleased, uncompleted Bruce Lee film. Without exception, these films were terrible, and the field was wide open for a performer with the charisma of Bruce Lee, but who could add his own unique spark. Cometh the hour, cometh the man, and that man was Jackie Chan. After toiling with little success in deadly serious kung fu films, Chan became the next fighting superstar by turning to comedy, scoring his first hit in 1978 with Snake in the Eagle's Shadow, and outdoing that the following year with Drunken Master. Jackie set out to be the anti-Bruce. Where Bruce offered physical perfection and pure kung fu, Jackie gave audiences physical slapstick, growing more outlandish as he grew more popular. Jackie's attempts at making movies in America have proved disappointing. The Big Brawl, The Cannonball Run, The Protector. But the real Jackie Chan films, which he usually directs himself, such as Project A and the Police Story series, have seen Jackie become the second great Asian star on the world stage. His old friend from the Peking Opera School, Sammo Hung, also became a star, actor, director, his ample girth making him a natural for comedy, but his amazing physical dexterity making him Jackie's equal in the screen fighting stakes. There was still plenty of room for other types of film in the voracious Asian film market, and with that in mind, the ancient race of ninja warriors were tried out. These films were not a huge hit in Asia, but Western audiences turned out for them in droves. The most famous ninja films were made by Golan and Globus Cannon Films, starting with Enter the Ninja in 1982, starring Franco Nero. The Cannon series at least had decent production values, but hundreds of cheap, badly made imitations were also churned out, the sort of films that gave the Asian cinema a bad name. The magical powers afforded to the ninja at least give even the cheapest ninja film the opportunity for some downright bizarre fight scenes. We all know what those were. The vogue for ninja movies only lasted for a few years, however, before being supplanted by kickboxing pictures after the success of Jean-Claude Van Damme's Bloodsport. This created a market for Western-produced martial arts films for the first time, and Hong Kong producers began hiring Western actors to help their overseas sales potential. British performers such as Gary Daniels and Sophie Crawford began to build careers in the East, but the first Western actress to achieve stardom in Asia was Cynthia Rothrock. Her success led to a vogue for women fighters not seen since the 70s stardom of Angela Mao Ying. The face of the Hong Kong film scene was changing by the 1980s. A new wave of directors arrived from the film schools with new ideas about film. Skilled fighting on its own was no longer enough, and their films began to depict realistic heroes in a realistic environment. In Hong Kong, this meant acknowledging the power of the triad gangsters. These Hong Kong gangster epics saw the use of guns and explosives in a way which outstripped even the most spectacular Hollywood production. The films of directors such as Kirk Wong and especially John Woo became cult viewing in the West and struck a chord with Hong Kong audiences tired of the power of gangsters in their daily lives. John Woo's influences are almost all Western directors such as Sam Peckinpah and Jean-Pierre Melville, while Woo has been hugely influential on such Western directors as Quentin Tarantino and Albert Pyun. The East is where the action is in the action film world, and Cinema of Vengeance is a great guide for film students or just plain film fans. You really ought to own a copy. Good article and a great doco, another one I haven't watched in a while, and I'm surprised we actually haven't seen a Blu-ray release of this fantastic piece just yet. Next up, the Flick Knife Troll returns because enough of us haven't learned the secrets of street self-defense. Opposite, we do get the start of a 3-page write-up on Speed, starring Keanu Reeves and Sandra's Bollocks. I mean, I like Speed, I don't love it, but when I do watch it every other decade, I enjoy the ride. Not enough though to read through all of this, unfortunately. Good article though, and a great range of pictures in this centre spread. Shame he never came back for the sequel though. Moving on. Following that, we get an article on the Kickboxer sequels. With Kickboxer 3, The Art of War due out on rental video, Impact looks at the 3 sequels to the 1989 Jean-Claude Van Damme hit. Pop quiz. You're a producer of cheap action films when unexpectedly you have a stonking worldwide hit starring an up-and-coming action star who just keeps on getting bigger with every film. What do? Easy, you make a sequel. The star won't do it? Make the damn sequel anyway. It's a neatly written article focusing on the Sasha Mitchell sequels, one of which was directed by my old friend Albert Pyun, and the other by Rick Keane, which was the third one, a standalone story that isn't really connected to the first 2. It goes on to explain how Part 4, The Aggressor, also directed by Albert, was initially set for a UK release before Kickboxer 3, but because the BBFC refused to rate it due to the violence, it never saw the light of day at this point in 1994. Anyway, the final paragraph reads, "In sensitive times, it's not hard to see why Kickboxer 4 failed to get a certificate. Boy, is this ever a violent film. It's not that the individual acts of violence are anything to write home about, it's the sheer amount of them. Considering the plot, this is hardly surprising. I felt knackered just watching it all. The excellent fight choreography is by martial arts legend Burton Richardson. Not that the film is all violence, as it contains the most pointless sex scene in the movies. If the film does finally come out, don't expect it still to be there. As soon as all this anti-violence silliness has blown over, I'm pretty sure that Kickboxer 4 will be allowed a video certificate. But then, in a country which still bans The Exorcist and A Clockwork Orange, who knows? Fun times. Hopefully we see some uncut Blu-ray releases of these sequels pretty soon. Next up, we have the Impact Letters page where Simon from Basingstoke is giving off about the BBFC and their choice of ratings. Don't worry, Simon, I know what you mean. I had my first film rated an 18 because I used the C word once, yet Kick-Ass only got a 15 because they could afford to pay them off, obviously. Tim from Essex joins in the rant and mentions Enter the Dragon as an example before asking whatever happened to Jimmy Wang Yu. Then Sarah from Surrey loves all the Hollywood heavies and gives off about the politician's stance on violence in movies. And finally, Lisa from London wants to know if there is a Brandon Lee fan club. And speaking of fan clubs, down the side here, the usual list of clubs available at that time. Moving on. Page 30 brings us the confusing Video Scream page. Again, it's an action movie magazine where it features The Vanishing with Jeff Bridges, Mother's Boys with Jamie Lee Curtis, Stephen Keen's double bill of The Stand, and the fun Ghoulies Part 4. Next to that, a full poster page for Jack Nicholson and Michelle Pfeiffer's Wolf, no doubt leading to another 2 pages wasted on a horror movie. And there you go. Take a good look, because I'm not hanging around here for long. Not my cup of tea, and not the right kind of movie for this magazine. Moving on. Over the page, Charles Bronson is the focus of this month's 3-page Hollywood Retro. Before Stallone, Schwarzenegger, Van Damme, Seagal, and all of today's pantheon of action megastars, there was a one-man army called Bronson. For a brief time during the 1970s, Charles Bronson was the highest paid film star in the world. For millions of cinema goers, his name was inextricably tied to the image of the hard, detached loner in movies which combined his imposing screen presence with the high-octane action, epic violence, and steely power. Interesting guy and a cool actor of his time. Of course, we can't forget that he also shared the screen with Japanese cinema legend Toshiro Mifune in Red Sun, one of my all-time favourite westerns. The article finishes with a selection of Bronson's films worth seeing. Opposite, we have TV Scene. What's hot and what's not in the latest offerings from small screen to video. Oh dear lord. Those titles are The Legend of William Tell, Ace of Spies, The Sweeney, and Quantum Leap. My god, that page has not aged well whatsoever. Thankfully though, we are nearing something better after we trudge through this page of ads highlighting the usual video sellers, photo dealers, and Impact's call for business to get to page 39 where we have China Beat. The first article is listed as Babe Runner. Kan, Moy, and Chung get down and dirty in the futuristic Executioners, which is, of course, Heroic Trio Part 2. And they're calling her Michelle Kan again, even though previous issues we've already clarified that her name is now Michelle Yeoh. Anyway, never have I seen a more unremittingly grim portrait of the future than the one painted in this sequel to Ching Soo-tung's Heroic Trio. The three superwomen, Anita Moy, Michelle Kan, and Maggie Chung, have gone their separate ways. Moy is retired from crime fighting in favour of motherhood, Chung is a bounty hunter, and Kan has become Florence Fightingale, helping our boys out in some worn-torn, futuristic no man's land. A hideously disfigured Phantom of the Chop opera is making a bid for political power, while our heroes become involved in a bid to bring fresh water back to the parched landscape. It's a world gone badly wrong, and the grim environment established in Heroic Trio is continued here. Moy goes mad, Kan gets killed off, and Chung loses the love of her life moments after she finds him. Technical credits are excellent, but never was there less fun to be had at a Hong Kong movie. And way to go guys for putting that spoiler in there about Michelle's character getting killed off, you dicks. Up top, Hong Kong offbeat. Lazenby and Wang hold up a Queen's Ransom. Obviously we've just got this pretty recent on Blu-ray from Eureka Video. It's a fun movie, it's not perfect, but anyway, let's read on. Prior to Bruce Lee's untimely death, former 007 George Lazenby was signed to a 3-picture deal by Golden Harvest. His first collaboration with Lee was to be Game of Death. Following the Little Dragon's demise, Raymond Chow worked off the contract by casting Lazenby as the hero of Stoner alongside Angela Mao, and as the villain in an international flick, The Man from Hong Kong. Oh my god, I mean they've even just corrected themselves here by saying that The Man from Hong Kong was made with Golden Harvest, but yet a few pages back said that it was a Shaw Brothers production. Anyway, fuck's sake. Both these films were fairly widely distributed in the West during the 70s, while Harvest's third film, with the one-time Bond, A Queen's Ransom, sank without a trace. After reading a Wang Yu retrospective by John Brennan in Eastern Heroes, I got hold of a copy of the movie, which truly deserves the title Offbeat. Directed by journeyman Harvest Helmer, Ting Shenzi in 1975, the drawn-out plot revolves around an attempt by an international terrorist group to assassinate the Queen. One of the real pleasures this oven-ready turkey holds for any kung fu film fan is the chance to spot some familiar faces, all of whom look ridiculously young, and all of whom wear ludicrous 70s outfits. Queen's Ransom must be the only film to feature Lazenby, Wang Yu, Angela Mao, and our own Elizabeth II. Actual footage of the royal tour is interspersed throughout. The heroes of the piece are Taiwanese actor Ko Shun-xiang, whose other claim to fame is appearing alongside Jackie Chan in Miracles and Mel Gibson in Attack Force Z, and Hung Wah-kung, well known to Heroic Bloodshed fans for his role as Mr. Dragon in Chow Yun-fat's God of Gamblers. The villains include a youthful Bolo Yeung, though he vanishes from the film after jumping into a river. The performances are perfunctory and the martial arts action limited. Both Mao and Big Boss star Han Ying-che are wasted in secondary roles. Dean Sheck of Drunken Master and Better Tomorrow 2 fame appears as Mao Ying's long-haired hippie boyfriend. The footage of planes dropping bombs, which opens the film, is exactly the Harvest stock material used for Sammo Hung's Eastern Condors 10 years later. Former swimming star Wang Yu hits the pool, and Lazenby hits rock bottom as he staggers through his fights. A fascinating cross-culture oddity. One wonders if Chow sent her Madge a copy as a souvenir of her Hong Kong sojourn. And below that we have the news update. Crime Story is due out on video soon from Imperial. The film sees Jackie Chan in a dramatic role. The film's director has continued to work in the same vein, making Department O with Danny Lee, and Hong Kong's Most Wanted, rough title, with full contact villain Anthony Wong. Of course, they're talking about director Kirk Wong. Below that, despite the expected decline in the recent wave of period martial arts pictures, producers are still churning out the odd kung fu epic, perhaps feeling that these films will stand out more noticeably in the current comedy weepy market, inspired by the success of the Anita Yuen vehicle C'est la vie mon chéri. Andy Lau and costume drama veteran Bridget Lin have just finished shooting a sword and sorcery epic in mainland China. A rough translation of the working title is The Smiling Sword. Well, that Smiling Sword actually became The Three Swordsmen, directed by Taylor Wong. It's not perfect, but it's a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. On page 40, and speaking of Andy Lau, look at this. What a spread for such an ill-received movie. The good, the bad, and the inebriated. Lau unleashes wine, women, and wushu in Drunken Master 3. Lau Garlung's Drunken Master 3 staggers from the sublime to the ridiculous. Its high points are the director's fluid camera work, trip hammer fast editing, and the excellence of his kung fu choreography. Its downfall is a ridiculous plot, confusingly star-heavy cast, and the absence of a worthy villain. Though the former shogun of Shaw Brothers proves that he can still craft a fine fight scene, it's also very evident that he needs a tight script to make the right film. With the early 90s kung fu revival dead and buried, it's unlikely that Hong Kong audiences will warm to Drunken Master 3 in great numbers, though those international following will welcome any new release from their hero. Set during the last days of Imperial China, Drunken Master 3 begins with bodyguard Yang Jun transporting Empress-to-be Shen Yu to a rendezvous with would-be Emperor Ho Kai-ku. In fact, Yang is a rebel, a supporter of Dr. Sun Yat-sen's Republic. His attempt to convince Shen of the worthiness of his cause fails when he and his followers are attacked by a foul-mouthed police captain, Lao Su. Though wounded, Yang manages to take Shen to the surgery of Dr. Martial Arts Master Wong Kei-ying, where Wong's son, Fei Hung, takes on the responsibility for delivering the girl to her date with destiny. On the journey, they encounter gay assassin Lu Hong and drunken boxing master O Ren. Captain Lau manages to recapture Shen and deliver her to her husband-to-be. However, a jade ring she has been carrying has broken, and so her life is now in danger. Yang, Oi, and the Wongs must combine forces to rescue her from the clutches of a strange new cult that has won influence over the Emperor. Chinese-American newcomer Willie Guai plays the youngest Wong Fei Hung since Iron Monkey. Although his wushu skills are adequate, he never gets to cut loose in the way that Jackie Chan did when he played the same role in the first two Drunken Master films. His end fight sees him go toe-to-toe with a Western cult leader who looks and acts about as menacingly as an irate sixth former in a school play. Lau Garlung is watchable as ever in his now familiar Sifu role, though obviously and needlessly doubled when he and Guai demonstrate the drunken fist on the roof of his character's wine factory. Adam Cheng of Zoo Warriors and Duel to the Death makes a convincing Wong Kei-ying, though Lau's half-brother Lau Gar-yung, Wong Sr.'s student, is given less to do here than he was in Drunken Master 2. Andy Lau and Simon Yam are both officially disciples of Lao Sifu, and each shows off some impressive martial artistry in a wildly differing role. Michelle Reese makes for an annoyingly shrill damsel in distress, though 36th Chamber star Lau Kao-fai turns in a fine comic turn as her tormentor. Reflecting the current trend away from kung fu drama, Drunken Master 3 is top-heavy with comedy. The all-important fight sequences are tricky and involved without featuring the kind of standout technical brilliance we expect from the man who crafted Martial Club and Scorpion King. The muddled ending sees too many heroes performing too much fury with not enough sound structure. Drunken Master 3 was scripted and rushed into production at speed, reflecting Lau's anger at being dismissed by Jackie from Drunken 2. The director's next production will certainly be the more measured vehicle needed to put him back on track. Well, actually, fans had to wait almost a full decade before Lager Lung returned to the director's chair with Drunken Monkey, and while I have soft spots for both this and that, it pretty much saw him retire from the director's chair once and for all, which was a big shame. A fun video scene follows that, highlighting the latest in VHS releases, which include Alien Intruder, Undercover Baby Blues, The Awesome Iron Angels with Moonlee and Yukari Oshima, Blood Fist 5 Human Target, the super fun Guyver Dark Hero, and Gunmen. On the side, we have 1-inch punchers, a list of videos Ian Fryer watched when he was sick. Oh dear. These include the double bill Ninja in the Killing Fields and Ninja Warriors of Fire, both of which he complains about and says that he fell asleep through. Then there was the fun Ninja Mission, to which he states isn't really a ninja movie, and if dressing up in black was all it took, then referees should be calling themselves ninjas. Oh Jesus. Anyway, he liked Final Gate a little bit better with Stephen Yip and Saskia Van Ryswyk, and also watched Hard Hunted and Baby on Board. What a selection. And then there's the last article of this issue, a 3-page piece on the late Roy Horan, co-star of Snake and the Eagle's Shadow, Stuff Bottle Connection, and more. I did chat briefly with Wang Zhongli about him when we met up, so let's see what Bei has to say. Magical Martial Mystery Tour. Bei Logan meets the actor-producer whose credits include Jackie Chan's Snake and the Eagle's Shadow, Van Damme's No Retreat, No Surrender, Cynthia Rothrock's Raging Thunder, and 2 movies with 2 different Bruce Lees. These days, fighting foreigners are a common phenomenon in Far Eastern action cinema. Performers like Richard Norton, Bruce Fontaine, Jeff Falcon, Gary Daniels, and Mark Keane have enlivened quite a number of recent Hong Kong chop operas. Back in the 70s, it was a different story. The only guilos featured in Cantonese movies tended to be expatriate businessmen on a lark or travellers lured in from the infamous Chungking Mansion's guest house to earn a few bucks. Cast as extras or, at most, bit players, these amateurs shuffled uncomfortably in their ill-fitting costumes with little idea how to fight or act. They never played major roles and certainly never had any involvement in the production end of the industry. The first Westerner to make any impact in Hong Kong actioneers was bearded American martial artist Roy Horan. His impressive performances in Snake and the Eagle's Shadow and Snuff Bottle Connection proved that a foreign fighter could hold his own against local talent. More remarkable still was the fact that Horan went on to become a key figure in the marketing and sales of Chinese action films internationally and is now a movie producer in his own right. Not bad going for a man who professes to have had very little interest in show business and even less in becoming an actor. This Rhode Island native began the search for the final frontier just as soon as he could grow a beard and leave home. He travelled to Canada's Northwest Territories, where he lived with the local Indian community. I ate like an Indian, talked like an Indian, walked like an Indian, he remembers. I was there for several years and it was an amazing experience. There was certainly no way Dances with a Beard was returning to Providence, so Horan took off to Australia, where he volunteered for the kind of railroad work they used to have to get a chain gang to do. I used to hammer down the cross ties in this blazing heat, Roy recalls. I'd be in front and the heavier machinery would be coming down the track behind me, slowly following us across the desert. Having survived the outback, Horan decided to go and live among a modern race who are easily as alien to us as the native Indians. In Japan, he studied martial arts for the first time. I visited a number of different karate schools, Horan says, before training in Shorinji Kempo. This basic training stood Roy in good stead when, while on an extended trip to Taiwan, he was invited to appear in the film Image of Bruce Lee, also known as Bruce Lee's Secret. The movie starred prolific Little Dragon lookalike Ho Chung Tao, aka Bruce Lee. Producer Lan Tianhong was so impressed with Horan that he brought Roy back to film further scenes for the film. I think they were amazed to find a Westerner who could fight, he says with a chuckle. It was on that film that I met Wang Zhongli, who would become my instructor. Horan also met Hong Kong filmmaker Ng Si Yun, who would become a key figure in the American's subsequent career. NG had invited Wong to make a movie for him, recalls Roy, and he asked if I'd like to come to Hong Kong because there might be a part for me in the film too. I decided to go, but more because I wanted to train with Wang Zhongli and see Hong Kong than because I wanted to be in another film. Acting held no appeal for me whatsoever. Nevertheless, Horan found himself cast opposite a young Jackie Chan in the first of Chan's two seasonal films, Snake and the Eagle's Shadow, which he discussed in our January '94 issue. Perhaps more importantly, from a martial arts standpoint, he found himself an unwilling participant in a proposed death match with a Chinese kung fu master. Ung Si-yoon had promoted Wang Zhongli's arrival in Hong Kong by telling the newspapers that the Korean martial arts master could kill any man alive in seconds. This gauntlet was picked up by a triad-backed Hong Kong martial arts champion. Roy was drafted into the frame. It was announced that if the Chinese fighter could kill Horan, who was Wang's student, he'd get a shot at the Korean. The unlikely setting for this real-life blood sport was a Golden Harvest soundstage. You see, they were trying to get around the illegal aspects of the match by saying that Ung Si-yoon was filming a documentary on martial arts, explains Roy. Wasn't he at all worried about getting killed during a warm-up for the main event? No, he replies simply, because I didn't think I'd lose. I was very different then to how I am today. There's a flash of the old fire in Horan's eyes, and you believe him. In the end, this Taekwondo Kung Fu showdown never happened. The guy's wife got scared and called the police, reveals Roy. They came to the studio, and that was the end of it. Though Horan's Snake and the Eagle's Shadow role as an evil priest was well received, he did not appear in the movie's semi-sequel Drunken Master. Behind the scenes, however, he was playing an increasingly important role. As an experiment, Ung Si-yoon dispatched Roy to sell the rights to Snake to an overseas buyer. When the American got a deal for one territory that was worth more than most Chinese producers get for the world rights to their films, he became a key member of the seasonal films team. He also served as an occasional creative muse for Wang Zhongli. We were on the set of Drunken Master, he remembers, and director Yuen Wu-ping was looking for something different for Wang to do, something he hadn't done in the first film. I said, what about that triple sidekick you do? So Wang got up and showed them, using me as his dummy. I was okay, but Wang bust up the guy he kicked in the film pretty badly. Horan went on to play another memorable supervillain role as a kung fu fighting Russian officer in seasonal films Snuff Bottle Connection. The stars of the film were Ung Si-yoon's secret rivals double act of John Liu and Wang. In 1979, Golden Harvest approached NG about making a sequel to their pseudo-Bruce Lee film Game of Death. He went to look at the Bruce Lee footage that they had and came up with a concept, Roy recalls. They didn't really give him a lot of Lee footage with which to come up with a Bruce Lee picture. This probably explains why so much of the film looks like a seasonal film, complete with the Shaolin Temple, Wang Zhongli, and challengers in pudding bowl haircuts and capes. We were going to shoot it in Italy, reveals Horan, where Lee had filmed Way of the Dragon, and NG had made a film called Kidnappin' Rome. I went over there to scout locations. They planned to maybe use the Colosseum for the ending. Budget considerations meant that Game of Death 2 was shot in Korea and Japan instead. Roy had a major role in the movie as Louis, the eccentric friend of the supposedly deceased Wang Zhongli. Louis comes to an untimely end, just as Horan almost did while shooting his death scene. I was hung by this guy, and he didn't know how to control the rope, he recalls ruefully. You know what a rope burn feels like? Well, they did 6 takes, so that took some skin off my neck, and then, when they were hanging me up, they found that the wire that was holding me up was faulty, so they almost hung me for real. Despite the low Bruce Lee content, Tower of Death, as it was called in some territories, made good money for Golden Harvest worldwide. Roy made his penultimate seasonal movie appearance in a little-known tournament-style picture entitled Ring of Death, though he didn't have a fighting role. Ung Si-yoon and Roy made their first trip to the Cannes Film Festival in 1980. The seasonal productions included Snake, Drunken Master, and its first official sequel, Dance of the Drunk Mantis. I was involved with selling all of their films from then on, reveals Horan, including Choi Hark's first film, The Butterfly Murders. Having survived his kung fu fighting film work relatively unscathed, Roy put brain rather than brawn to work. He produced a best-selling series of martial arts instructional videos and was a pioneer in the Hong Kong video industry. As a filmmaker, he was to be responsible for providing the world with the next great martial arts star and one of the most influential chop sockies ever. The film was No Retreat, No Surrender. The actor was Jean-Claude Van Damme. Next month, the magical martial mystery tour continues. Van Damme, No Retreat, No Surrender, Conan Lee, Cynthia Rothrock, Raging Thunder, Lorraine Avedon, Matthias Hughes, Gary Daniels, be here. Cool, what a fun article. Opposite, the Coming Soon page announces that Jeff Bridges will be blown away by Tommy Lee Jones. We'll also be getting bits on Highlander 3, Clear and Present Danger, The Wanderer, The Next Karate Kid, and in China Beat, Jet Li does the Kevin Costner bit as the bodyguard from Beijing. And finally, on the back page, some old sticky fingerprints and a full page ad for the aforementioned Cinema of Vengeance video release. Something extraordinary is happening in the film world, and Cinema of Vengeance is your guide. Learn the secrets of the incredible, balletic, action-filled Hong Kong film industry as Cinema of Vengeance charts its history from crude beginnings through the breakthrough of the legendary Bruce Lee to the films of Jackie Chan and John Woo, which have become essential viewing all over the world. How cool. Actually, I might just watch this again tonight. It has been some time. Anyway, this has been another episode of Deep Impact. I'm George Clark, and I just want to thank you again for your continued support. Until next time, enjoy your Kung Fu, and I'll see you soon. So thank you once again for watching another video here on Invincible Asia. Don't forget you can check out hundreds of others here on the channel. You can also show your continued support by heading over to my new merch store or by checking out invincibleasia.com, where you can read my full movie reviews and follow me on Instagram at InvincibleAsia. Until next time though, enjoy your Kung Fu, and I will see you soon.